My name is Clara Towson, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
I am Francisca George, and I'm a friend of the show.
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Susan Leemans and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom. Yeah.
My name is Zeynep Sönmez and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Hey guys, my name is Sasha Vickery and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Hi, my name is Lloyd Harris and I'm a friend of the show.
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Jan Faria and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Yes.
Take one. Well done.
Hi, my name is Jasmine Paolini and I'm a friend of the show.
Wow, Jasmine, you got it in one time.
Ready? Play.
Not a bad 24 hours for some friends of the show, such as Jaime Faria, Jasmine Paolini, and Zeynep Sönmez. Susan Leemans, not quite such a good first round for her. We will get into those results and so much more. Many of you may be tuning in and aware that we haven't been live for a couple of weeks. Of course, we sadly lost our colleague, Damien Kust, passed away on the 6th of January, and it was difficult, and we felt right also to not go live. During that period, we will be paying tribute to Damien in the appropriate and correct way, and we will do so in time, if you like, in the next... Well, we'll do it post-Australian Open is the plan when we have the time and we can give him the send-off that he deserves. It's obviously been a tough couple of weeks for many people, and I went to his funeral yesterday and met some of his friends and obviously his parents. And just a quick one more thing on his friends. It was really cool to meet them and share stories from their experiences of knowing Damien as a friend at university and so many other ways. And of course, I sort of brought the tennis side of things, and our stories were often married up, let's say, in terms of the context may have been different, but the circumstances and the situations very similar. James, you okay?
I'm okay. It was good to hear your little story about your time at Damien's funeral. So I saw from the live stream that there were the tennis balls near his coffin, which I think was quite fitting given his love for the sport and the way in which loads of people across the tennis spectrum, beyond us to well-known journalists, even players that paid their tribute. It's been really touching over the last couple of weeks to hear everyone's stories and their shock and sadness at Damien's passing.
Yeah, and as I said, we'll be doing a tribute to him in the correct way in February. But Damien, in particular, would not want us to dwell on anything other than tennis, particularly as it's the first day of a Grand Slam, although I know that he actually probably prefers the qualifying to the first day itself, but he still enjoys the first few days, especially court 17s and court 14s and so on. What court, by the way, was Cam Norrie against Bonzi on, do you know? Was it a show court or not? Because I didn't see the match.
It was a show. Yeah, it wasn't the stadium. It was a show court. So it was 1573 arena. So I think named after the Chinese whiskey. It actually was a bit of an epic court today. It only had 3 matches scheduled onto it, but both the men's matches on that court all went 5 sets, and the women's match that was sandwiched in between went 2.5 hours and 3 sets as well. So, if you were in Australia and you were on set 1573 arena, you had a pretty good day and a pretty good tickets worth entertainment today.
Yeah, let's share some of the results at least on the screen. And we can begin with, I think there were perhaps arguably bigger headlines elsewhere, but let's begin with that match between Cam Norrie and Bonzi. I mean, 3 hours, 39 minutes, Norrie winning that epic 6-4 in the 5th. But the way it began, it probably didn't feel like it was going to go 5 sets after Norrie bagels Bonzi in the first.
He does. It was a pretty weird start. I mean, although the scoreline looks very dominant, they were fairly close games, but on both the Norrie serves and also the Bonzi serves in that first set. It was just a situation that there was those big points 30 points. Norrie was able to get the win and or be able to get the winning points to be able to get to 6-love. It was very much at the beginning, unless Bonzi was able to win it within the first 3 balls of a point, it generally went Cameron Norrie's way. He was able to outlast him. It's a bit of a curse, really, following on from that. Winning a set 6-love, because you have such high expectations of how the rest of the match from your own perspective could go, and it kind of had a bit of effect on Cam, where it got tight in the seconds. It got to 4-all, and there was a bit of a sliding doors moment. I would say in that 4-all game, because Cameron had 2 break points that would have taken him 5-4, and he probably from that point would have served out the set. The first one he couldn't do anything about. It was a brilliant serve by Bonzi. Cam couldn't really get any proper connection onto it to get it back in the court. But it was that second break point where Cam just went too passive and not aggressive in any way at the back of the court, and Bonzi was able to get a mistake out of Cam. Bonzi then goes on holds to make it 5-4, and from that point onwards, Bonzi just wasn't missing. Cam was trying to stick him in any sort of different part of the court possible. Bonzi was still getting the ball back and with venom and purchase and causing mistakes out of Cam, and it was uncharacteristic, certainly in sets, end of set 2, set 3, and the beginning of set 4, where there was a lot of unforced errors and a lot of errors from Cam, something that we haven't seen from him, in over a year, really. He's done a great job, locking down those unforced errors to make them as minimal as possible. But he was able to really use that dogged determination that Cameron's known for, to be able to then win the last 2 sets, 6-3, 6-4, and serve it out quite comfortably as well, which is heartening to see, and enables him to get a bit of revenge over Bonzi, who beat him in the Mets final a couple of years ago. Which is the last time those two played on the main tour. So it's a Cameron will be happy. It's of course a little bit of it's quite funny. Anyone who follows Cameron's career in the last couple of months or so is that he likes playing Frenchmen. He always gets drawn against French players. He got drawn against 2 French players in Auckland. He beat Hugo Humbert in the first round in Brisbane. Went through 3 French players in Mets. He always plays the Frenchies, and barring GMP last week, he tends to beat them. And it was such a Cam match. It had Cameron written all over that one, and he'll be pleased to be able to get to the next round, especially as he doesn't have any points to defend this Australian Open. He went out first round to Berrettini last year, which was a shame that of course Berrettini's had to pull out the tournament. Which got the news of that when I woke up this morning. But yeah, I'd be happy that he's got a chance maybe to get to the weekend for Cameron.
Well, today who won't be happy is Benjamin Bonzi, not just because he lost, but because he was 2 from 18 on break points. So in fact, he garnered more breakpoint opportunities than Cam. Cam was 6 from 13, and a very honourable 46% conversion there, but just 11% for Benjamin Bonzi, and so I'm sure he'll have a few regrets there. The 5th set, so it went 6-4. I mean, was it as in the balance as the scoreline suggests?
Not really. Cameron's serves were generally quite comfortable, and there was a couple of occasions, certainly in the first couple of service games for Bonzi, where Cameron was very present in the point, and he was able to get the break with some brilliant returning in that 3rd service game, which got him to 3-2. And then from that point forwards, Cameron's service games went relatively smoothly. Benjamin Bonzi's ones were relatively tight. Cameron was at least getting to 30 or even to juice on Bonzi's serve on those occasions, and it maybe down to the fact that the brilliance that Bonzi was showing in sets 2 and 3 in terms of not missing, he was missing in that last set and in the 4th set, and that was the critical difference, is that if Bonzi was still able to do the brilliant, spectacular shots that he was doing in sets 2 and 3, it probably could have been a lot more tighter. Bonzi maybe even have squeaked it, but Cameron was able to keep his level consistent. Benjamin Bonzi's level dropped, and that played into the score at the end.
Okay, what we'll do is we'll stick on the men's side, and then we'll come to the women's side in the second half of the show. I think perhaps there's even more stories to talk about on the women's side, but we'll address those in due course. For now, I'll just have a quick word on Echeverri Kecmanovic. I saw most of the first set, And I just thought, listen, there's just too big a gap here, at least on the day, for me to suggest. In fact, I think I tweeted Echeverri's winning this, and I think it was maybe 3-1 in the first set. It was just up a break, but it was just, to me, the gulf was quite big. So actually, to my surprise, when I woke up this morning, it actually went 5. And just one more thing on this, Kecmanovic, I think he lost his grandmother over Christmas or maybe just before, and he did mention it in press afterwards that certainly was playing on his mind, and that, you know, bigger things than tennis for Misha to be concerned with. So
you were certainly right when it said that Echeverri was going to win it. He did end up winning it.
Well, he did win it, yeah.
It just did went around the houses to do so.
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest though, I did see that when I saw this match on paper, I did look at it and go, "That's got 5 sets, 4 hours, absolute, you know, slugfest, written all over it." And I was kind of right, really. I was also really thankful that it took 4 hours as well, because it meant that Norris match was able to come a lot later, so I could wake up and to be able to watch that one. So yeah, it kind of read what that match was going to be. Kecmanovic just gets himself involved in 5-set epics.
Yeah, second year in a row he's lost at this stage. In a 5-set as well in Australia.
Yeah. Generally, Grand Slams, it's Kecmanovic in 5 somewhere. That is happening in round 1 and 2. It always takes place.
Yeah. All right. Other matches on the men's side to consider. Let's go on to Rod Laver Arena, and we'll actually sort of go down through the side. So we've got Zverev beating Diallo in 4 sets, and we've got Alcaraz beating Walton in straights. Which one of those two would you like to highlight?
I would say, Zverev losing a set, kind of to be expected. You know, Diallo would have probably given it his all to be able to get that first set, and it just looking at the scoreline, it kind of just fell away from the sets going forward. I did have that kind of an upset alert, because Diallo has a bit of an aggressive, you know, very strong service game, which in the past has really troubled Zverev, and you know, against players of a similar ilk. But you know, Zverev did very well to be able to come through that as comfortably as he did in sets 2, 3, and 4. Especially coming off the back of quite a disappointing United Cup run for Zverev, only getting 1 win and getting humiliated by Hurkacz, really, in that second match. Alcaraz, just going on to that one, it kind of makes sense for it to be straight sets. You could imagine, you know, given it is against a local Aussie, that one of those sets was going to go tight. I know Walton did go a break at the beginning of the second. Shame for him that he wasn't able to sort of see that through to at least take it to a 4th set. But you know, it's sort of a ring rust really we're going to see from Alcaraz and Sinner over the next couple of matches, where it's going to look like a 5 out of 10, a 6 out of 10, whilst they're having their pre-season in the middle, or having their warm-up tournament in the middle of the Grand Slam, which is very Djokovician of them, that they're gonna be doing
exactly.
That. And by the time we get to the weekend, by the time we get to the second week, they'll be firing at 8 out of 10s and, you know, demolishing top 20 players as though they're nothing.
Yeah, one thing on that point, actually, Alcaraz, of course, at the last Grand Slam, went sort of 14 days before he got broken. Well, he didn't even make an hour and a half before he got broken in this particular tournament, because he was broken, as you highlighted, at the beginning of the second set. He broke back not long afterwards, and then eventually they go to the tiebreak, and that was kind of that. Yeah, and your point on Carlos is kind of amusing, but we know how it is now with these guys. It's a little different, I think. So in terms of that getting broken early in this tournament compared to going all the way in the US to the final before he got broken by Yannick in that final. You make a good point there. I think if he'd had a warm-up tournament, then he might have won a little more comfortable today. But, you know, this is the different part of the season when he'll play Cincinnati pretty much, I think, throughout his career as a warm-up for the US Open. He may play Canada as well, especially in non-Olympic years, and especially if he's fit and firing. But this is a different time of the year, so I think we'll frequently see him and Yannick. Be interesting to see what happens, of course, as and when Saudi Arabia enters the fray with that 1,000. I think they may be tempted to play that pre-Australian Open. That's down the line. But yes,
yeah, I mean,
one thing on... Go on.
Yeah, we have to be careful with our Saudi tournament, because, of course, that could be February, but that could get placed.
Okay, are we thinking February for that one, are we?
I would put money on February over January, just
Okay.
just because it would fit into a swing better.
Mhm.
And yeah, but like we're saying, they don't. Carlos and Yannick aren't going to do warm up tournaments unless the United Cup pay them millions of pounds to try and tempt them over. So I don't think a weird exhibition on a super slow, cold indoor tournament in Seoul is going to be giving them the perfect warm up for the AO at the beginning.
Just one more thing on this. Alcaraz won 91% of his points at the net, so it's 20 from 22. So that's nice stats from him and good touch, as you would expect from the world number one. Of course, he is seeking the calendar slam. I thought it was a very interesting moment pre-tournament when he said in press that he was asked, would he rather win the Australian Open or the other 3 slams? I was kind of surprised. Maybe I shouldn't be surprised because he's generally a fairly honest guy, and I like it about him in many ways. No, most people would sort of bat that away, or they'd go, of course, I'll go 3 slams. But he's like, don't know, being the youngest person to ever achieve the career slam would be pretty cool. And so he just said, I can't answer it. You have to give me more time. So that's interesting because I still think that 3 slams is a lot. Huh?
What would you do if you were in his shoes? What would you say?
I would probably go for the 3 slams because that's just incredibly a lot of slams. But because at the end of his career, those 3 slams might be the difference between him being second or fourth or first and third in an all-time list. And I think he'll win Australia definitely one day. So I would go the 3 slams. But the one thing that just I can see, he's been the youngest person to ever do it, the first sort of to achieve it at that age. So that has to be tempting. And he may think, look, I might never win the Australian Open. And it could be one of those where, he gets to a point. It could be like Federer at the French, for example. To some extent, Rafa, as he was trying to seek his second. Same with, to some extent, Novak, even at the French as well, and so on. That you just wonder if you'll ever get over the line. So, but yeah, I would go for the 3. What about you?
The Rafa thing is quite a poignant point because he did always struggle at the Australian Open when it came to winning it, only winning it twice when he won. Was it 4 times he won the US Open? Which is the equivalent hardcourt slam. It's it makes sense in his head maybe to want to get over the line in AO, and then he knows he's got that one. I'd say it would make it look good in his trophy cabinet, but we've all seen what his trophy cabinet looks like, and it's an absolute shambles. So I think that's what he's not worried about that too much.
Yeah. All right, one other thing on the Zverev encounter. There was something I wanted to highlight. Just one double fault from Zverev across 4 sets and 15 aces as well. It's just a rubber stamping or reminder of how far Sasha has come in terms of those double faults, which were left, right, and center 3, 4, 5 years ago. Certainly pre-injury anyway of 2022. But he's now probably the best first server on tour, and he's also pretty high, maybe even the best as well in terms of getting his second serve in with venom. So certainly in terms of pace anyway, he really can't, certainly amongst the elite anyway, I don't think he can be beaten. There's spot serving as well, although talking of pace, by the way, Diallo's pace was a bit faster today, but when I'm talking about the elite, I mean top 10.
I was just thinking from a big picture perspective as well. Like, there's a lot of pressure on him this tournament. If he doesn't do well to defend those final points, he can see himself tumble really quite far down the rankings.
True.
So he has that additional pressure walking out, and that may play into him maybe losing that first set. As closely as it did, and he's going to be going through the tournament knowing that if he doesn't make a quarter semis, defends at least a good chunk of those points, that he could be in a bit of a sticky situation, going into the rest of the, continuing into the rest of the year.
Indeed. Cerundolo also progressing today in straight sets, I think it was. Let me just have a quick look down again.
I'll tell you what, he was really lucky to get. He was really lucky to get himself onto the Margaret Court. I'll give him that. It was I'm surprised that one got put on such a bigger court as it did. That's just a bit weird take from me. Oh. I think we've lost John for a bit at the moment. Hopefully,
I'm back.
John
I'm back.
There we go. There we go.
My internet sort of comes and goes, unfortunately, and it might be the case that every 5 or 10 minutes it goes, but hopefully you'll be mid-sentence rather than me or whatever. Anyway, so Fran Cerundolo, yes, he's through in straights. You was just saying something strange about that match.
No, I just said it was quite funny. He was quite lucky to get as big a court assignment as he did. I'm surprised, for a native seed in Cerundolo to get the second court. I would have had that more as maybe a Kia Arena type match than a second court match. But he did well, straight sets. Cerundolo, he's broken through as those sort of like Argentinian players that can play well beyond clay. And Xijing Zhang, did well to be able to be in the main draw here. I know he's recovering his ranking at the moment, so good one for Cerundolo. Really, get into the next round.
Yeah, indeed. Zhang, I think, is still finding his way back after a pretty rough spell out through injuries. Yeah, Fran Cerundolo on a hard court is definitely a thing. And I'm sure we'll see him win lots of matches on that surface throughout the year. Bublik winning in straight sets over Brooksby. Had a little wobble or two in the third set. Brooksby threatened the break on a couple of occasions just immediately prior to Bublik getting the crucial break. So this is, I think, 4-3 Brooksby. And Bublik serving, so 3-4, and he had some break points, and he was up in a couple of those rallies, and he'll have one or two regrets about that he didn't take his chances at those points. Then, of course, as tennis being tennis, he then immediately gets broken in the next game, and Bublik serves it out.
Yeah, I would certainly say. I mean, the problem I think Brooksby had there was that, and certainly what I saw from the live scores as it popped through, was it just looked like he was getting broken early in every single set. That although he probably was competitive for the majority of the set, it was being broken early in all those early service games that at least put Bublik onto the front foot. And credit to Bublik, to be able to come through that. That he's been recently become a top 10 player, a bit more expectation on him. Won Hong Kong a couple of weeks back. We saw what happened in Wimbledon, where he won Haller and then came in and played her atrociously. So he'll be happy that he got through to the next round and he's continuing in the tournament.
Artur Ferry. Well, straight sets win over Caboli. I know there's the Caboli illness injury scenario to add to that, but what about that?
It's phenomenal, really. It's Arthur. He's ranked 180 odd in the world at the moment. Did really well to come through qualifying. Beat some tough opponents in Tomic and Prismic to get to the main draw, but didn't lose a set in any of his qualifying matches. And it's that sort of thing of that momentum. These players that have gone through qualifying, and there's another qualifier we'll talk about a bit later on as well on the men's side, where they've won those 3 matches. They have the momentum. They like the courts. They're used to the conditions. And then he goes out against Fabio Caboli, knowing he's the 20th seed. He has all the pressure and the expectation. I have nothing. I'm just going to go play my game. And Arthur has an interesting game. He's not a big server, but he's a very tricky player. It's almost like a bit like the British version, slightly of like a Mute in terms of the ability to use all the different tricks and slices and dices of the ball as he's playing. When Caboli, who's as I said, has the upset stomach, had to take multiple toilet breaks just to try and get himself into some state. That sort of game is just going to absolutely frustrate you. And in the Aussie heat, it just got to Caboli, and Arthur was able to really fly on through, and probably you would say, of course, the biggest upset of the tournament so far on the first day. And
on the men's side,
great for him in his ranking. On the men's side, Arthur's going to be great for him in his ranking. He's going to pick up 80 points. Going to probably go to around about 150 odd in the world. And maybe we could hopefully going to see Arthur. Arthur, he qualified for Stockholm last year and won a couple of challenger titles. That he may be looking to get onto the main tour a little bit more by the second half of this year, and this could give him a good building blocks to go and do that.
Yeah, indeed.
And also another product of American college tennis.
Oh, yeah, indeed. Also on the John Cain Arena, a nice solid win for Francis Tiafoe with his huge water jug coming past the Australian qualifier, Kubler, 7-6-6.
He was using the smaller ones today, though. He was using the smaller
was he?
Today, I saw.
Okay.
Yeah, just the water drop AO branded bottles were the ones he was using, not the big one, which people question how he got that through baggage control.
Mute winning on Kia Arena against Tristan Skulkate in straight sets, and the mercurial players Mute and Bublik actually coming through uncharacteristically in their matches straight sets wise. I mean, Bublik, despite his rise over the last 12 months, winning all these titles and breaking into the top 10, would still have inexplicable five setters at slams in there somewhere. But he came through in straight sets, but also Mute doing something similar. So a really good win for him. But I guess the story of the day on Kia Arena has to be Zheng beating Korda. That's obviously an All-American clash, and I'm referring, of course, to Michael Zheng as opposed to any of the other. I think he's 174 in the world. So, certainly his win over Korda as contender, and maybe even the winner of the shock of the day on the men's side. But yeah, what did he make of Korda going out? Lost the first two sets before fighting back. Once he fought back and went into a fifth, you're thinking he's going to do this, but no.
Yeah, it was certainly a bit of a shock, especially as Korda, in that fourth set was able to win the tiebreaker 7-love, and you'd imagine if you were the qualifier at that point, your head would start spinning. You'd feel as though you want the earth to sort of swallow you up. The Korda coming back at you. So experienced at Grand Slams. Korda. I mean, he's got to the second week of AO at least once, I think maybe twice. So it's a tournament that Korda tends to do well at. And for Michael Zheng again, like we said about Arthur, it was a qualifier. Certainly with the beginning stages of the match, has that confidence on the surface. Has the momentum from 3 match wins. I mean, Zheng would have had to beat players ranked highly above him to even qualify, because he would have been unseeded in qualification. And it's a huge win for the lad. Something he'll remember. And again, it's just he probably saw when he went out. I'm the underdog. Nobody's looking at me. The expectations on Korda. I mean, Korda finished last season playing okay, but nothing. Was certainly coming back from injury, but looked as though he was getting to a decent level. And normally you'd have expected Korda to come through that. So all credit to Zheng really in this one. I mean, the big thing there is that there wasn't that many aces. Korda did hit 22. Which suggested that he was quite dominant on his own serve, and let's see what Zheng can do going forward. Really, it's as another array of American players sort of, appear in these stages of the slams and on the tour.
Indeed. Yeah, 5 sets there, 6-3 in the fifth. So on Zheng progresses, but I think in terms of Korda, it's another dent in the hopes of Sebi making a big breakthrough in 2026. I think at the beginning of every year and sometimes midpoint during the year, and he will often talk it up, as he did at Wimbledon a couple of years ago, that he should be considered among the elite. But unfortunately, losses like today put a dent in those arguments. Anyway, onwards and upwards, Zheng progresses. As I say, probably the shock of the day, certainly in terms of the numbers. Talking of numbers, Sebi Korda did hit 22 aces. So he's certainly the bigger server of the day, of the two, but ultimately wasn't able to prevail. Winning a lot of percentage, by the way. He got 80% of his first serves won today, but 71 unforced errors from Sebi. You're not going to win many tennis matches by giving that many points away.
You're not. It's you're asking for trouble if you're going to hit 71 unforced errors in a best of 5 set match.
1 from 7 as well on break points, so there's a little bit of regret there for Sebi too. But anyway, onwards and upwards. Let's move on, because otherwise we'll be here all day. On the same court, I think. Let me just get my results up. Of course, that's not working right now. I don't want to talk about South Korean music. That's just me trying to copy and paste, and I just put the V in instead of copy paste.
Welcome
anyway,
to talking K-pop. We're about to discuss,
indeed K-pop. That was what I was trying to. I couldn't remember what South Korean music was commonly known as. But anyway, okay, that's the two matches there. 1573 Arena, we already touched upon. Echeverry and Norris, epic wins on that court. So let's move on to the ANZ Arena, where we had wins on the men's side, or a win on the men's side for Marton Fucsovics. He came through in straight sets against the Argentinian Hugo Carabelli. Moving on to the outer courts, we had
key to note, by the way, ANZ Arena was the one that's been renamed from what was originally Court 3. For anyone who wants to know where ANZ is.
So they've got a sponsorship for Court 3, basically.
Yeah, so it used to be called Court 3. It is now called the ANZ Arena.
Yeah, ANZ, Australia, New Zealand Bank, I think. That's what I think it is. Anyway, Court 6, that's a little easier to navigate. Talking of navigate, Emilio Nava winning in 5 sets. Of course, he's going to be playing Cam Norrie in the next round. Yannick Hanfmann, a 4-set win. I saw him looking joyous at the end of that, as you can imagine, beating the American qualifier Svider. Then on to Court 7. We had
Vance is going to be a bit upset. He likes Schneider, doesn't he?
Svider, is he a big fan? Is he? Oh, okay. We also had a 4-set win.
Yeah, I think that's one of Vance's favourite ones.
Okay.
Sorry about that, Karen.
4-set win for Komisanya over the American wildcard Kipson. Jamur, by the way, who's quietly having a good sort of 18 months, I would say, where he's getting some solid results. He's losing to Alcaraz, for example, at the French, as you would imagine, but he's actually, bearing in mind his sort of volatility on the court, he's actually winning matches he should win at Grand Slams. And arguably, an opening match against Draxel could have been more difficult, but 7-5, 6-love, 6-4 for the Bosnian, I think Jamur is, if I've got his nationality right. So he is through. Friend of the show, Jaime Faria. Now, Faria's match against Blocks. Blocks, of course, coming in as a lucky loser. Blocks' issue in the previous round.
Quite controversially as well, by the way, for Blocks. Really quite controversially for Blocks because he pulled out of his final round.
He retired, exactly.
Injured.
Yeah.
And it leads again to a question which really popped up last year because of Opelka at the Paris Masters doing something similar, where retiring mid-match or not even allowing the match to take place. That it leads to the question, which is if you pull out injured or you claim you're injured in the qualifying and you're a top seed, should you actually be entered as a lucky loser, or should you say that you're pulling out the tournament completely?
Indeed, interesting debate, and maybe we'll dwell on that some other time. But either way, he did end up losing. So yeah, I mean, I think from what I understand, it was a real retirement. I mean, he was in great form going into that third qualifying round.
I saw him at he got to the final in the at the next gen.
Yeah, exactly. I saw him at the next gen
as well. So
yeah.
So
he was
watch.
Yeah, very much so. So it was kind of surprise or frustration that he wasn't able to stay healthy throughout qualifying. He then gets the break. I'm not sure who he replaced in the first round. It wasn't Berrettini. He replaced somebody else that Faria was due to play. I think it was another qualifier, of course. So he fills in there, comes in, and but Faria swats him aside in 4 sets. I did see something on social media about Faria complaining a lot. Is that normal? So I don't know whether he was complaining about some line calls or something with the umpire, but maybe someone in the live chat can elaborate on that. And good morning to you, Ashley, and hello to everybody in the live chat. Do make sure you hit that like button. Of course, Faria is replicating his Australian Open run, so to speak, of a year ago when he qualified and won his first round match before going down in 4 sets to Djokovic. I like Faria on a quicker hard court. And the reason why I'm sort of emphasizing that is because he doesn't. He likes himself on clay, basically. And he's very good on clay as well. And I think he can get some decent results on the grass with his serve too. He is adamant that his best surface is clay. But our dear and late friend Damien, I remember speaking to him about a year ago, and I think I said words to this effect. I think he's going to get better results at the end of his career on hard courts, and especially a quick hard court. And Mr. Kust was like, yeah, I don't dislike that idea. And he's backed that up with a 4-set win over Blocks. So he progresses in Australia, and I think he might re-enter the top 100 at some point in the next few weeks or months. At least he's matching his run in Australia of last year, so he's not going to drop any points. He broke into the top 100 in Rio, I think it was, and then dropped out. But he's not far off, and I'd say I think at some point in 2026 he will re-enter. All right,
it's good to see him at least getting a result here, because I must admit, I think barring the clay court season, I haven't heard much of Faria in terms of his results and whatnot. So it's good that he's starting to pick up some wins.
He kind of picked up an injury. Picked up an injury in the clay court season last year. I remember he rushed back. I say in the clay court season, he might have missed the entire season until the Challenger in Estoril, which took place in the second week of Madrid. And he kind of rushed himself back for that. He then wins a few matches on the grass, does okay. I think he gets maybe one win at Wimbledon in the main draw, I'm going to say. I think he maybe made the second round there. But yeah, he's not, it's not like he's dropped off the face of the earth and he hasn't played for a year or his ranking has plummeted. He's not far off the top 100 once again. And as I say, I think he'll be there. He'll also have an eye on Wedash right now, which has about 6 challenges a year, and I'm exaggerating, but I'm only exaggerating by maybe 1 or 2. There's like a Wedash 1 happening this week, and I think next week there's a Wedash 2. These are 2 indoor challenges in Portugal, and he has the consolation of if he does have an early exit in Australia, he can play in his home country next week and get some more points on the board. We don't know who Fadi is going to be playing the next.
It's certainly a traditional start to the Challenger season. Urash having all those indoor challenges. It's I remember last year Medjedovic choosing to go to them instead of actually going to AO qualies, and that played out quite well for Medjedovic at the time to get some match wins in Europe. So as you say, and of course Urash this year. Top 2 seeds are 2 Brits in Billy Harris and Jan Choinski.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. All right, let's have a quick fire predictions for the men's singles matches that we've established for Wednesday in the second round. So I said that Tiafoe is through, but we don't know his opponent yet. Zverev is the same, but we have got a few established. We've got Tiafoe against Comisania. What is your gut telling you about that one?
Tiafoe Comisania, I would say, I think Comisania will be tricky. I was impressed that Tiafoe, I mean, if anything had Tiafoe upset written all over it, it would be playing an Aussie sensation on John Cain Arena, and that didn't come to pass. So I think maybe Comisania taking maybe the first set, but I could see Tiafoe winning that in 4 or 5.
Yeah, never played each other before. Comisania, not his best surface, but he obviously got a win today. But I think Francis, I'm not going to go he's turned a corner exactly, but he does seem to have found a fresh spurt of motivation as we come into 2026. Maybe he sees this as one of his last maybe big years on. I mean, he's still a young guy, I know, but maybe he's just like, his results over the last couple of years, after some good results in New York in particular, but they've kind of dipped a bit and don't quite have the same confidence in him as we did have a couple of years ago. But I think he's sort of remotivated, if you like, and recharged his batteries over the off season. And I'm going to go for Tiafoe, and I'll go for him in 4 sets. Alcaraz, Hanfmann. Does Hanfmann win a set?
Well, depends on the time of day. I think if that's in the daytime when conditions are a bit quicker, I think Hanfmann could take a set on a tiebreaker, but I would still see Alcaraz coming through that one.
Yeah, I've got Alcaraz coming through. They've only played once before. It was on an outdoor hard court in Beijing in 2023. But yeah, I can't see anything other than Alcaraz winning. In fact, I can't see much other than a straight sets win for Carlos. I think he's had his little, not scare, but his mini hiccup that when he lost his serve in the second set today in his straight sets win over, who did he beat today? I've already spoken about this match already.
Adam Walton.
Adam Walton, of course he did, yeah. So he won that one in straight sets. I think he's had his little mini hiccup that he often has in the early rounds, and I think he'll purr and cruise through against Yannick. This, of course, will get cut and clipped as Yannick prevails in 5, but that I very much doubt, even the 34-year-old in his wildest dreams. Okay, another match we've got established is Bublik against Fucsovics. Fucsovics, I remember him 2 sets to love up on Yannick Sinner in 2023, and that, of course, is a long time ago. It's 3 years ago, but it feels like even longer ago in terms of Yannick Sinner being 2 sets to love down to Marton Fucsovics. I think Sinner went out in the next round as well, so Sinner comes back in that, and you could just see the confidence draining from Fucsovics. Bublik is certainly a Bublik 2.0, 3.0, 4.0, a very different beast on a tennis court these days compared to a couple of years ago. Bublik's winning this one, right?
Yeah, I mean, I could see Fucsovics maybe taking a set, maybe making a second set maybe a bit tighter. But yeah, you'd imagine, if there was any match that I thought would upset Bublik in the early rounds, it would have been the Brooksby one, and it didn't.
Yeah.
I think he'll come through Fucsovics.
Yeah, I thought he would struggle more against Brooksby. I thought Brooksby will get a set at some point, and perhaps, as I said earlier, he should have won that third set today.
They both play with very flat balls that both of them don't really have that much RPM on their balls, both Bublik and Brooksby, and I thought maybe that could even disrupt Bublik a bit, given it's going to have something flat coming back to him.
Bublik has a 4-0 head-to-head on the main tour advantage over Fucsovics. Fucsovics has won one match, albeit at challenger level in 2017. But Bublik's wins, by the way, he's only dropped one set as well throughout all these wins. And they all came before 2025, if you like, because 2025 was Bublik raising his game a significant level up. So I think, I'm with you, though. I can see Fucsovics winning a set, but I'll have Bublik to win that one in 4. Franz Rundelo Jamur. I'm going to go for Franz Rundelo to win that one.
Yeah, I would say Franz Rundelo to go for that one. No props there.
I'll have Mute getting it done over the American Zheng, who obviously miraculously won in 5 today against Korda.
I really hope we get Mute at Alcaraz. That would be a real take.
Yeah.
Put that night session on Rod Laver. That could be fireworks.
Indeed. We've got Emilio Nava, Cam Norrie. Share your thoughts.
I think we're going to see another 5-setter where Cam Norrie squeaks through 6-4 in the fourth. That has that written all over it. Unfortunately, in my mind, it's going to be another Cameron epic. He can't win in straight sets. Cam, he's allergic to it.
Yeah. Cam, by the way, he's not seeded at this tournament, right?
Yeah, he is 26.
Oh, he's seeded. Okay, yeah. So actually, just having a look at his ranking now. He's 27. Yeah.
He's got a bit of a window. He didn't really pick up that many points. Basically, in the first 3 months of the year, he's got around 100 points to defend in February. Only I think about 150, something like that, to defend in the Sunshine Double. So there's a real opportunity for Cam over the next 3 months to really stack up some points onto his ranking and look to be able to have some deep runs at some bigger tournaments further down the line. So a win today was pretty good. If he can get a win tomorrow, that would help him cement himself in the mid-20s and then looking to maybe make a push into the top 20.
Yes, indeed. I'm like you, though. We don't always agree on our thoughts and predictions, but I'm with you. I think Noe will emerge the winner. They've never played each other before, by the way. But yeah, I'm going to go with Noe, and I think you're right. He's going to do it in the hardest way possible, and it may well go the distance. Final match that we've got established on the men's side is Thomas Martin Etcheverry against Artur Ferry. I think this, of all the matches that we've discussed so far in terms of Wednesday, might just be the trickiest one of all to call.
Yeah, I do think Ferry could come through it. I think he's riding confidence. Etcheverry doesn't know really not that much about him. Etcheverry's also had to come for a bit of an epic today as well. I could see it very springing the upset, maybe in 4 or 5 in that one.
Yeah, I mean, it would be an upset, but it's not, obviously Ferry's ranked, I think, 186 at least coming into this tournament, and Etcheverry's comfortably in the top 100. But it's not like the gap, for example, it's not like 186 against 15 in the world or something like that. And yeah, I think Etcheverry on a clay court is a slightly different beast. But
if this is at the French Open, then I would have said Etcheverry.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
Done well to have got a set, but it's a hard court. It's a bit quick. Ferry will slice and dice it. Yeah, I could certainly see. I could see him. Really, really frustrating Thomas.
Yeah, I'm gonna go though with Etcheverry to prevail, but in another 5-setter. Obviously, he came through a 5-set today. Did the Argentinian. And yeah, I think he'll do another one again on Ferry, but Ferry's run has been notable, at the very least, having won his first round clash today. Okay,
yeah,
let's
Terry,
switch to...
Terry is English. Terry is English, Terry, indeed.
Okay, yeah, there's a comment in the chat, yeah.
I think he was born in France, though, and I think he has a French mother, hence the name Arthur instead of Arthur. But he is English.
Gotcha. All right, let's switch over to some of the women's results today. Where shall we begin? We'll begin on Rod Laver Arena, just because it's a little easier to go through. We had straight sets wins for Paolini and Sabalenka. The only thing I've got to say about Paolini is every now and again I think, oh, she might have a bit of a problem today. She might go 3. But she ends up winning very comfortably, and the number 7 seed did just that today over Sasnovich 6-1, 6-2.
No, I mean, I was really impressed with the scoreline 6-1, 6-2, real domination from Paolini. I don't know. I mean, Sasnovich is a dangerous player, so I'm surprised she didn't win at least more games than she ended up doing. But maybe the hot, quick conditions suited Paolini, and she was able to get the win there. And I think it's really impressive for Paolini to get the job done as quickly as possible. You're going to have a few days off. You know, she's one of these players, Paolini, that you predict to go out early and she'll go to the semis or she'll go to the final now because of it. She's fantastic, and well done to her for such an easy victory.
Yeah, comfortable win for her. Sabalenka wasn't getting all her own way in her clash today with, let's go for this, Rakotomanga Rajona. Let's see if I butchered that name or not.
Rakotomanga Rajanov. Oh, I'm going to forget this.
So, but Sabalenka...
I suspect that player's going to have to probably going to shorten their name on the on orders of play going forward, because I feel for the commentators trying to pronounce that.
Yeah, we've got Tian Soa for her first name. Maybe that might be what she'll go by. But anyway, the French woman, she put up a good fight the first set. I remember, so I tuned in towards the end of the first set. It was about 4-all, and might have been actually even 4-5 with her serving. And it gets to 30-all, and you think, okay, Sabalenka's been slightly off. Rajona, at least that's for her third name. She was... it would be an exaggeration to say she was redlining, but she was playing as well as she possibly could, particularly given the power differential between the two. She was a lot more of a wily player, if you like, and sometimes these players can prevail even against Aryna Sabalenka. But she was hitting her spots, particularly on serve, which was causing Aryna a bit of trouble. But it gets to 30-all, you're serving to stay in the set, and I thought, you know what, you just get through this service game. She gets to 30-40. I think Sabalenka has 1 set point. I think that might have come and gone, or she might have got it. It was just a case of get through this service game, get to the tiebreak if you can, and you never know. You never know. You might get a couple of lucky points in the tiebreak, and then all sorts of things can happen. But once she got broken in that match, she only won one. In that game, she only won one more game in the rest of the match, and it kind of felt that was the game, because even at the beginning of the second set, I thought, yeah, Sabalenka's going to get an early break here. She's cruising now, and that's exactly what happened. And also Rajona wasn't able to quite maintain that level that she had in the first set. And and Aryna said afterwards that she was flattered and a little bit nervous to play in front of Rod Laver, Arena, but also Roger Federer, of course.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of you kind of detailed it perfectly in terms of that match. It was Sabalenka came just blowing off a bit of rust after a week of not playing, and just steamrolling her opponent, who would have just gone out of that purple patch zone by the time she got broken that second time. And it's some good experience for the French wildcard. Be able to take this going forward, and I hope maybe we'll see more of her on the main tour going forward.
Sakari winning in straight sets over the French woman Jean 6-4, 6-2. Most notable thing on this is Jean. Sorry, did I say Jean? Jean. Yeah, Jean. So the most notable thing, by the way, apart from my mispronunciation regarding this match, is the unbelievable return winner that Sakari had off one of Jean's serves. I don't know if you've seen this doing the rounds on social media.
Yes, behind across the net post, like kind
of around the net post, exactly. It's a kind of sliced sliced return on the stretch kind of thing, but it's just sweet as you like. And I think she said something like she could try that 1,000 times and it won't happen
leads
again.
to the campaign that we need to have more singles nets on the main tour.
Yeah,
we need to have
yeah.
more
I think
nets on the main tour.
I saw somebody posting about that on X earlier. I think it might have been Mark Petchy, basically saying, look, you're getting a lot more for your money in terms of the sponsorship. I think it's Kia that are sponsoring the nets. And if you allow this, yeah, no, I think you're right. They should certainly do that. We had a win for Svitolina. We're going to come back to Raducanu at the end of this. If you're wondering why I've skipped that, we'll return to her match at the end, but there's a particular reason for that. It's John Cain Arena. Svitolina beat Buxa in straight sets, but the match of the day on this court, I think, is inarguably the Danilovic Venus Williams match. I tuned in at the end of the first set, and Venus was just serving bombs, and not only that, +1 winners, and ended up taking the first set on a tiebreak. Danilovic came back to win the second set, but I guess the story of the match is what happened in the third, with Venus 4-love up in that third set, and as we talked just before we went on air, just ran out of gas.
Yeah, it's not to bring age into it, but as somebody in their mid to late 40s now, you'd expect that if she wasn't able to have got this done in straight sets, that it was going to be a struggle. Certainly when it passed the 2-hour mark, that was when she got to around about that to get to that 4-love game, or to get to that, to get to be 4-love up. But Danilovic, showed real grit and determination to be able to come through and win the next 6 games, even with a sort of tiring and fatiguing Venus Williams on the other side of the net. And Venus will still have that aura. She may be well past her prime. She may not be the player that she once was, but it's still Venus Williams at the other end of the net. I know that if we were on the other, if John McEnroe was at the other side of the net and we were playing him, we would still feel very giddy, even though we're 30, 40 years is younger. And Venus will enjoy the fact that she was able to put on a show. It's always a bit of has slight controversial bits to a wild card, given the age and given the amount of matches that she's played. But she certainly showed her money in that one and gave a great night to the fans that got themselves into John Cain, and it was fitting that it was on John Cain, where anyone who is a day pass holder can go and watch it.
Yeah. Still got a sting, though, for someone even as experienced and as successful as Venus, given the competitive animal that she is. And fingers crossed we get to see her a few more times across 2026. Okay. Any other results I would need to highlight? On the women's side, we had Gibson beating Blinkova in straight sets. That's a real surprise for me. Bearing in mind, I remember Blinkova playing, some of the best tennis of her career in 2024 when she knocked out Elena Rybakina in that epic encounter that went, I think, 22-20. Pavlyuchenkova was on the end of a bruising loss because it went to a deciding set tiebreak, and she ended up losing to the Chinese qualifier 12 points to 10 in that deciding tiebreak. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, Gibson, the wild card is through, and by the Chinese is through. Feel free to interrupt me if you want to say anything on either of those two matches, or I'll proceed.
Continue.
Yeah. So basically, I think really, again, we had probably 3 or 4 stories today, I would say, big ones. And one of those was Zeynep Sönmez beating Ekaterina Alexandrova. 7-5, 4-6, 6-4. I remember just a couple of days ago, we had Daniel Collins was asked. Now, there is a slight asterisk to this question in terms of my answer, but she was asked, which of the top 10 players do you think is most vulnerable in the first or second rounds? And she said Iga Swiatek. A lot of people thought that was kind of unusual and perhaps suggested it had more to the fact that Daniel Collins and Iga don't have the best friendship, but we won't dwell on that right now. I was just sort of saying to myself, Alexandrova. Now, the asterisk, because you may well be about to scream to me, is she's 11 in the world or seeded 11. And I'm sure if Daniel Collins said, look, I don't see anyone in the top 10, but I have got my eye on number 11 seed, Alexandrova, who was just a couple of weeks ago in the top 10. So I think you could crowbar that very easily into the conversation. She was the player, let's say, at least in the top 11 seeds, who I had on upset. In fact, I even predicted it on a preview video I did a couple of days ago when I said I think Sonmez is winning this one in 3 sets, and the reason being is 3 or 4-fold. Firstly, Alexandrova breaks through to the top 10. Unbelievable achievement to do that in your 30s. But is that a ceiling for her? I personally think it is. She may well go and prove me wrong. And of course, get in the live chat in the comments below if you disagree. But I also thought that was a ceiling, that's a breakthrough. And it's really difficult knowing that at that age to follow up in the next season. Secondly, her form coming in this tournament, wretched. Thirdly, Sonmez has already established herself as a really good player on the tour. And in fact, I think she'll be getting back inside the top 100 pretty soon. She's also winning matches at Grand Slam. She made the 3rd round last year at Wimbledon in making history there. She's also made history today in being the first Turkish player to get to the 2nd round of the Australian Open. And finally, her form was decent, particularly in qualifying where she didn't drop a set. So I thought it's going to be really tough, and she might have to come from a set down if she's going to win it. And that's exactly how it turned out. Zeynep Sönmez won the 1st set. Okay, it does go to a 3rd, but in the end, she emerged the winner. So hats off to her.
No, absolutely. I mean, it's just on paper the biggest shock, and on the women's draw really. And so, Sonmez will feel incredibly proud to be able to get the win over Alexandrova. It's a bit of a shame, certainly given the way that Alexandrova finished 2025. I remember the final against Iga in Seoul and taking it deep into a 3rd set. Sonmez will be happy in qualifying and then getting the win. And again, it's one of those things. It's playing 3 matches, winning 3 matches, having the confidence, having the feel of the courts. It's dangerous for somebody to play, especially if you're not in any great shape or form, to play a qualifier who is feeling that confidence and projecting that forward.
Indeed, yeah. So one other thing to mention about something that occurred on that court, I think it worked out okay in the end, but there was a situation with a ball girl, I think, fainting, falling very sick. And a lot of people praising Zeynep for her reaction to that situation where she rushed over and gave her some assistance, at least on the BBC Twitter feed. Sonmez rushed to help a ball girl who fainted during the qualifiers' surprise 1st round win at the Australian Open. As Alexandrova was serving for the 2nd set to level the match, the ball girl stood beside the umpire's chair and fell flat on her back. But she did get up quickly, and you can see here in this image, I think I'm sharing on the screen. Actually, I'm going to share it now. Sonmez obviously helped her back to her feet. Temperatures reached the highs of 28 degrees C. I mean, that is very hot, but it can get even hotter. It can certainly breach the 30 degrees mark. So, the ball girl managed to get back to her feet and was helped off court by medical staff, with play resuming after a 6-minute delay.
No, it's it's the temperatures in Australia. Australia we've seen with Sydney and which reached into the low 40s on a couple of occasions during the United Cup. That it can get brutally hot there. I think Adelaide also had temperatures into the 40s, and 28 in Australian terms is maybe not as hot as those temperatures, but it is still really brutal conditions to be physically active in for a long period of time.
Not a good day for the Ukrainians. Yastremska and Kostyuk both going out, 2 seeds falling there. Yastremska, of course, a former Australian Open semi-finalist just a couple of years ago. She lost to Rusa in straight sets, and Kostyuk losing this crazy 3 hours 31 minutes match against the French woman Jacquemont. Kostyuk took the 1st set 7-6, was serving for it in the 2nd, and I think that's when she had her match point, but ultimately went down. So it was a 7-6, 6-7, 7-6 win for Jacquemont, winning the deciding set tiebreaker 10 points to 7.
She did well she did well, Kostyuk, to continue playing, because she went over quite badly on her ankle near the end of that match, and had to get it taped up and strapped up. And if it went any worse, it could have seen her completely having to retire from the match. And it's a shame really, because Kostyuk getting to the final in Brisbane a couple of weeks prior, people really were looking at her as somebody who could should have at least certainly got to the 4th round, where she would have potentially met Sabalenka, the person that beat her in the Brisbane final. And it's a shame really for Marta. It's Australia's been a good tournament for her over the years. I think this was a tournament she went very deep in when she was a teenager, and it kind of shot her to a lot of attention at an early stage in her career. And fingers crossed the ankle is okay for her, and that she's gonna be able to dust herself down, take the positives of what happened in Brisbane, and then go hit the and then go hit the Middle Eastern swing.
Must have been a huge impact on a match so fine, and she was so close to winning it. That has to be really the deciding factor today, right? Her injury, I mean.
Yeah, I think but I watched a little bit of that 10-point tiebreaker, and there was a lot of mistakes, and it looked like it was down to footwork that caused it.
Yeah, I know Brenner in particular is big on Kostic's chances this year, and I think he's got her for a top 10 breakthrough. We'll keep an eye on that, and despite today's loss, that's still very achievable. Also on the screen, we've got friend of the show, Susan Leymans. She won the first set 6-3. Did you tell me she had a huge advantage in the second set as well?
Yeah, she was 5-1 up in the second set.
Ooh, that's rough.
5-1 up, and then ends up losing the next 6 games to lose the second set 7-5, and then just fell apart against Potapova in the third, to lose it 6-2 in the third. I mean that's gonna sting. I mean, she's gonna be thinking about that on the plane back to Amsterdam for a while. You'd expect it's that to be 5-1 up, should have won that match, should be playing Emma Raducanu in the next round, and in fact she's going to be on the Emirates flight back to Amsterdam. Indeed,
Raducanu, discuss, winning 6-4, 6-1. Sawankau, I think is the name, her opponent's surname. I did sort of have to practice that a few times the other day as I was doing a preview for this encounter. I thought Raducanu, how was her health today in terms of, she's obviously had this foot injury that's been plaguing her at the back end of last year and the beginning of this season. I think she skipped at least one match at the United Cup as a result. How did she look physically, Emma, today?
Look fine. I don't think the foot's that much of an issue these days. I think there was a couple of headlines from a few British tabloids that were trying to exasperate an issue that actually didn't need exasperating. I think the major thing that people pointed out from her pre-tournament press conference was her discussions about her forehand and the way in which she's been doing some big picture work with Francisco Roig over the off season to try and improve it and to get it better. But the problem was that they've made it worse before they're going to try and make it better. Now against her opponent, her opponent was very good at making it awkward for Emma, and that led to her opponent going 4-2 up or 4-1 up at one stage in the first set. But once Emma got comfortable and got used to the types of ball that the Thai player was putting towards her, Emma it got into a groove, played really well. Great attacking tennis on second serve returns, and she'll be very happy that it was actually quite a comfortable win in the end. She's got third round points to defend here. She's just got herself back into seeding at Grand Slams, and will want to kick on this season to potentially try and get into the top 20. So she started off well here.
Indeed, yeah. As you said, she was 4-2 down in the first set, but then she went and won 4 games in a row to take that set. And in fact, she ends up winning 10 of the last 11 games of the match. So that's a good sign for Emma. And if she can stay healthy, then she has a good chance of replicating at least last year's run in terms of it being the third round. If she is to do so, she's going to have to beat Potapova in the next round. And I'd like to just quickly talk about that encounter now. Now, both of these players are pretty aggressive in their own way. I think Emma's sort of reeled in that sort of early part of her career when she was just, lights out and winning spectacularly or perhaps failing miserably. She's probably a little bit more solid than she used to be in that sense, and maybe that's why she's getting some solid results. Potapova, we know how sort of up and down she can be in so many ways. What are your thoughts going into this? Obviously, Potapova having that comeback win against Susan Leymans today, and Emma winning in straight sets as well.
Yeah, I think Emma will be. I think it's a match that she'll be comfortable with, because Potapova, although she hits the ball hard, she doesn't hit the ball massively hard to the extent that it causes problems for Raducanu. And actually, I think Emma would be able to play with Potapova's ball quite well. And although and like we say, Potapova should have lost today, and in reality did play very poorly for large parts of her match against Susan Leymans. And you'd imagine that it'll be an up and down performance from Potapova again. I could see potentially it going to 3 sets in that match. Potapova will certainly try and raise her level for a match against Raducanu. She does tend to at least raise her level against the bigger players. But I given the fact that Emma came through quite well against her opponent this round, I expect her to come through that one and to get to the third round. Wow.
I do as well. They've never played before, by the way. Potapova has won, of course, 3 singles titles. Emma Raducanu winning just 1 so far in her career, but of course that one was a Grand Slam in the 2021 US Open. Yeah, I do as well see Raducanu coming through, but I prefer her chances in straights to 3 sets.
Okay, yeah.
I just think if it goes 3, I might be swinging towards the Austrian just because I do think that the physical situation is a concern for Emma, and I think it might end up being her undoing at some point in this tournament, or she might just end up losing in straights to somebody herself. But yeah, I wouldn't want Emma to get in a dogfight, put it that way. So I'll go for Emma Raducanu in straight sets, but still got, for me, 1 or 2 concerns about her health-wise, particularly regarding the foot. But we'll see if that holds her back at all. But yeah, I'll go for Emma in straights regarding this particular encounter. Ready to move on?
Let's go.
Cool. All right, let's race through the last couple of women's matches. Putintseva winning in 3 sets over Haddad Maia. That seemed to have a sort of a, I don't know how to say this, but Putinseva's celebration as she's walking towards the net, whilst Haddad Maia had to wait. I'm not bothered by it, so don't please think I'm getting down on Putintseva here at all. It was just
you're not clutching your pearls there, Scott. You're not clutching your pearls there.
Yeah.
On that one.
No, it was just, you've got the opponent waiting, and you could do the celebration as soon as you win, but I think she did a funny sort of little, sort of crouched down and went like this, just a few meters away from Beatrice Haddad Maia. But yeah, great win for her coming from a set down. I actually found that one a really difficult one to call.
Her form hasn't been that great, Potapova, of late. So maybe for her it was more of an internal celebration, just to say that, yes, I can still win. I'm still viable on the main tour, because barring the Aussie run last year, it was a pretty barren season for Putintseva.
Yes. Yeah, I think she's had not a great 12 months, I agree. And she's capable of getting results, particularly on the grass, but that didn't turn out to be the case last year. But 7 double faults from Beatrice. And yeah, she's obviously a little bit more of a conservative player in terms of aggression. So yeah, going 3 sets, maybe not the most unlikely scenario, but yeah, she ended up faltering today. There was, I think, at least one other match on the women's side, a straight sets win for, a straight sets win. It was at the bottom of my screen a moment ago. Paulina Kudermetova, who beat the Spaniard Maristany Zuleta de Reales. That's a little bit more easy for me to pronounce than some of the other names that we had earlier. And also we had McNally as well coming through against the Japanese qualifier Sakatsuma. So 2 straight sets wins there. Baptista, probably in the other sort of notable match, she won an All-American clash in 3 sets, 6-3 in the third over Taylor Townsend, who of course had to come through qualifying, but actually came through as a lucky loser in the end. So Taylor, obviously she had a good run in New York last year before a painful loss to Krejcikova when she had, I think, maybe some match points in that match. Certainly she had her chances. But so Baptista through. So we've got Baptista through, we've got McNally through, and Paulina Kudermetova through. If you want to say anything else on those matches before we wrap up.
Just RIP the tennis balls of that Baptiste Townsend match. They would have been properly worked at. And I guess anyone who gets them as like a charity ball to take home, we'll just have them as a display icon. I don't think they're actually capable for any tennis matches anymore.
All right, James, I am going to go to the pub on my own with this laptop, and edit a couple of bits that we've spoken about into previews. Raducanu, as you can probably guess, was one of them, and maybe I'll get 1 or 2 of the men's ones as well that we've got lined up. Just one more thing. Is there a match in the next few hours, so coming up tonight as it would be in the UK starting at midnight, and obviously tomorrow as it would be in Australia and Asia, Monday, day 2. What is your standout match, would you say?
So I'm just having a look. It's from a sentimental standpoint, maybe Stan Wawrinka's match against Laszlo Djere.
He could win that. He could win that, Stan.
he could win that. I was hoping he was going to get a bigger court assignment than he did, especially we're on the 3-day cycle. So
what court's he on? Oh, he's on Margaret Court, right? Oh, he's on Kia Arena. Sorry, yeah.
He's on Kia. I would have hoped he would at least been given John Kane at a minimum, just because it's his last time there. One that could be a pretty good one between two unseeded players would be Poprin versus Muller. You'd expect that to be a pretty good match and a pretty raucous match on John Kane. Keep on going through. No, that's one man morale. Oh, this could be an interesting one. And Boko versus Emerson Jones. Of course, both two teenage talents. That's on.
And Boko's winning that though, right? I think.
And Boko's winning that, but it'd be interesting to see because Emerson Jones, she ended up on the front cover of Australian Vogue last week, and has really been hyped up in Australian circles as a potential superstar for them. So it'd be interesting to see what she can show against Boko in that match there. Anything else that's sticking out? Maybe Alicia Parks at Iala. That could be an interesting one. Just complete contrast in styles between those two, and seeing how that could play out in that one there. Basharot first match at a Grand Slam. And as the 30th seed. How's he going to cope in best of 5 sets? That'd be an interesting contest. Maybe Novoni Majedovic. That could be a pretty tasty match. I could see that one going to 5 sets if it did so. But barring that, I'm not seeing much that's jumping out to me at this stage.
No, I'm the same. But I do want to just go on.
No. I was going to say I am going to keep an eye on the early morning in the Jacob Fernie, Maya Jacques, and the Fran Jones match. It seems like it's a bit of a mini Davis Cup day tomorrow. It's going to be Poland versus Great Britain, as Fernie and Jones are both playing poles in their opening round matches.
Let's just see if I can pluck a sort of upset or two. I managed to predict Sonmez winning in 3 sets over Alexandrova. Let's see if my luck is going to remain on day 2. Almost certainly not. I wonder, though, it might not be a huge upset, but Lynette unseeded playing Emma Navarro. I can see Lynette winning that one. So it's not the biggest of upsets, but it would be, in terms of ranking at least, and where they are at in their careers, that you would call that an upset. So I might go for that. Anything
I got
else?
one actually. I do see one maybe. Yingbing Bu against Denis Shapovalov. Yingbing is used to, he's a very good player. He's been plagued by injury, but did win the the Asia Pacific wildcard, or the Asian tournament for the wildcard slot to the AO, and I could see him potentially being a bit of a problem for Denis, who we haven't seen much of recently over the last couple of months in terms of strong performances.
Yeah, the other one I have on my radar, and I did do a preview for this, so please check that out for a fuller perspective on our videos. If you click on the video section on our YouTube channel, you'll see that we have a video previewing Dalma Galfi against Clara Towson. And it's a really tough one, that one, but I can see Towson losing in the first round at a Grand Slam, or 2 Grand Slams in a row. Obviously, she lost a 3-setter, an epic 3-set loss to Alex Iala last year when she had big advantages in the 3rd set, but saw them slip away. I think she was up a double break in the 3rd set before that slipped away. And I can see her struggling against Galfi today, so or in this match. So I've got Galfi. Let's go with Galfi beating Towson. That would be a bigger upset, I think, in terms of ranking differential. But I've also got Lynette maybe upsetting Navarro. I think at least one of those 2 upsets will come in, and maybe I might get lucky.
Another one that maybe a year or 2 ago I could have said could have been an upset. Arnaldi's playing Rublev, but we know that Rublev's playing a little bit better than he has done in recent months. And Arnaldi hasn't been playing as well, but certainly that one I could potentially see as an upset. And of course, the one that you can never really predict, because she could either go out first round or win the Grand Slam, or win the Grand Slam that she's entered into. It's Barbora Krejcikova versus Diana Schneider. That certainly that could have Barbora springing a win against Daria, or Daria just absolutely demolishing her. It could go either way.
Yes, indeed. By the way, do check out the link pinned in the... Oh, it might not be pinned, actually, but it's in the description below. We've got a link I've got a couple of links I want to draw your attention to. One is if you want to become a member, you can do so. And Ashley has now been a member for 9 months, and we've got several other members as well. And you can get some bonus footage and loads of other little pieces from as little as a couple of euros per month. So do that if you wish, but you don't have to. There's also a link in the description below as well for which is pinned going across the bottom of the screen, and it's pretty much, I think, in all the descriptions for all our videos for Tennis Warehouse Europe. And make sure if you want to buy anything from there, use the code TALK10 at checkout, TALK10 at checkout, and you'll get a little discount on whatever tennis goods you wish to purchase. James, big thanks for joining me today. And I'm sure we'll be catching up at some point.
It's one of the things I love. I do love about Sunday starts. I know the players sometimes complain about them, but it at least means that we can watch it if you are a working person.
Yeah,
the first day of Grand Slam, and I feel like
it's a no-brainer. I can see why they don't push it another day to Friday because of other tournaments happening the week before. But for me, a Saturday start and spreading it over these 3 days, it's a no-brainer for me in terms of money through the tills, but also eyes on the TV and sponsors and all the rest of it. But yeah, good point. And I think is Wimbledon the only slam now that doesn't start on a Saturday? On a Sunday, so to speak.
I mean, it took them 100 years to be able to get the middle Sunday. I'd be surprised. I think it'll take another 100 years for them to be able to get the Sunday start there. But no, Wimbledon works the way it does, having that Sunday free. But it's nice that the rest of the Grand Slams you start on a Sunday and everybody can at least start the tournament, get into it. Instead of it all kicking off when you're at work and then you get home and you're trying to work out what's happened and you wait until the weekend to be able to watch any live tennis.
Yeah, and of course, if you are listening to us as a podcast, thank you very much. Do make sure you follow us. I think you can do on the podcast, on the audio, but you can also give us a review. Give us 5 stars if you like it. Give us 5 stars if you don't like it as well. Anyway, James, big thanks for joining me today.
No worries. Thanks for having me on.
And to everyone else, you know the drill. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.